Okay, so so we didn't pod right after the game because we collectively just kind of looked and went, there's not a lot to say about the game. The 49ers were hella banged up. We had been saying it all year, and the Seahawks might be the best team in the sport. And it looked like a team that might be the best team in the sport playing a team with a bunch of guys who are probably like preseason players. So I don't have a lot to say on the game itself. I will say that some of the reaction last night, I don't think the Seahawks are very much here. That's going to be a team that's really good for a while. And the 49ers are going to have to compete with that team as well as with the Rams. And that's going to require some changes for sure. But I don't think that the Niners' last two games against Seattle this year were some referendum on the team or the season. I don't totally. They have Fred Warner, George Kittle, Nick Bosa. That game probably goes a lot different. Maybe they don't win. Maybe they're still not better, but they're not 35 points worse than Seattle, I don't think.
Yeah. I would agree with you. I think, look, like all the injuries force any reasonable person to recalibrate expectations going into the playoffs. And even if you go as far back as the spring, the conversation was, man, the 49ers are retooling the roster. This is like a complete rebuilding season, et cetera, et cetera. The window's closed. Now they finished 12-5. And they were one game away from being the number one seed in the NFC. So I think overall it's a successful season. Did it end the way anybody would have wanted? Obviously not. Getting blown out to a division rival in the playoffs is no fun at all. And particularly given, like, you allow a touchdown on the first play of the game, not even the first snap, the opening kickoff, and you're down 7-0. It's just not an enjoyable game to watch for anybody who's watching from the 49ers side. So, it taking a little bit of fun out of the fact that, like, the game never really felt competitive. As the most competitive it felt was after the 49ers made their second field goal to make it an 11-point game in the second quarter. And then
that was like, oh,
right. But if they don't allow the Kenneth Walker touchdown and they get off the field or even hold the Seahawks to a field goal there, you could talk yourself into, okay, if they get a touchdown on the first series of the third quarter, then like they'll be in this game and maybe the second half will be interesting. We've seen crazier things happen, right?
Sure.
But to allow the Kenneth Walker touchdown, to have it be, 24-6 going into halftime, you're like, all right, this is over. This is not a competitive game, and it's just kind of a buzzsaw. I did the math today. I think number one seeds in the divisional round since the NFL expanded to 7 playoff teams per conference. I think they're 7-3.
Wow.
Right. So it's a tough spot, obviously, going to play the 1 seed coming off the bye, let alone a short week. And I don't want to use a short week thing as an excuse. I just think it's notable that it's just a very weird decision that the NFL makes, forcing half the bracket to play on a short week and the other half to play on extended rest. When you could even it out and then have everybody play on normal rest is stupid. But anyway, that's not why the 49ers lost. 49ers would have lost.
I think they would have lost, by 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns on Sunday as well.
Just pointing out the difference between, like, what might be... Anyway, doesn't matter.
Totally.
Don't want to go down that road. But I think the big picture thing here is the 49ers drastically overachieved, and I don't think anybody realistically thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. I think they certainly could have played better and had a better performance in Seattle, but it never felt like, oh, this team's on the cusp. This is the best team in football. But like, it would have been one of the more improbable stories that I could ever remember, in any sport.
Yeah. So much of the analysis going into the Eagles game and the Seahawks game was like, hey, they can win if these small miracles happen. If they play a perfect game and the other team makes a bunch of mistakes, they can win this one.
Which is what happened in Philadelphia.
It's just that's not a tenable thing, and that's not a shot at the 49ers. That's not a fire Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. That's man, in the NFL, typically when you lose your best players to injury, suspension, whatever it is, it becomes really, really hard to win the Super Bowl, which is already a hard thing to do. Like, this is not, I don't know. You were talking about that field goal real quick that made it 17-6. This is my last thing on the game last night. I do want to talk about Brock Purdy, but the last specific thing on the game last night, it was 17-3. The 49ers, though, had moved the ball a little bit. Mm-hmm. They had they got to 2nd and 3, and then for some reason, Brian Robinson can't get 3 yards, even when the 49ers get the edge. That was weird. And then 3rd and 1, 4th and short, they fail spectacularly. But they were moving the ball, and certainly better than they did in Week 18. I thought the moment for me when it was, oh, this is all the way over. Like, this is they're not going to come back, was when Ricky Pearsall's diving catch that would have put him on the edge of the red zone on that drive was a non-catch. It's 3rd and 6. Purdy rips a throw over the middle. Pearsall makes this diving catch. They're going to be on the 21, I think, and going in like, oh man, hey, they could score late enough in the half here. They cut it to 7. Seattle may not have time to go down and score. Like, there was still a game when that Pearsall catch got turned to a drop, and the Niners had to settle for, I think, is a 58-yard field goal that Eddie Pinheiro did hit.
56, yeah.
It just was like, oh yeah, 56. It was just like, all right, I guess that's just, it does not. They're not doing it this week, tonight, whatever. That was the one play.
And a lot of things that happened in the game were sort of emblematic of the roster issues, even aside from the injury stuff. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that for sure. But it was just one of those. I mean, there's sometimes in the NFL they're just buzzsaw games, and buzzsaw games happen when you're the worst team and the other team is rested and on its home field and has an elite defense, and you're playing on a short week after flying across the country. It's difficult, and it's not pointing out the short week and stuff isn't to make excuses. It's to say that's why the Week 18 game was so important.
Totally.
If you can win that Week 18 game against the Seahawks, then the circumstances are entirely different. Mm-hmm. Seattle has to go play on the road somewhere in the wild card round. Then they come to you, or whoever you play comes to you. You're rested. You're playing in Levi's Stadium. That's obviously the biggest difference. And the 49ers simply weren't good enough, and they weren't good enough against Seattle in particular. So that's ultimately what it comes down to. They drastically overachieved this season. Yep. The silver lining is all the young guys who we talked about, the 49ers young guys aren't good enough, et cetera, et cetera. They were good enough to get to this point, and I don't know how much I believe necessarily in the individual talent of a lot of the 49ers young guys. Mm-hmm. I think more so I believe in the way they're coached and what Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh did in particular to make the team better than the sum of its parts. And I think, and we can talk about this as the offseason goes on, particularly with Robert Saleh interviewing for head coaching jobs. But I think the big question for me is, are the 49ers going to be as well coached next season if and when Robert Saleh leaves to take a head coaching job, and if Clay Kubiak leaves?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So
it was not funny, but kind of funny. If you're laying out a path to the 49ers winning that game, it was, all right, well, first of all, they can't make mistakes. Like, they can't give up a kickoff return for a touchdown. And that happened on the first play. And then it was like, all right, well, you got to convert when 3rd and short, 4th and short, you got to convert. They failed to do that twice. All right, can't turn the ball over. Next drive, turn the ball over. It's just like,
stop the run.
Stop
the run.
Well, and that's the other thing. That's the other thing is there's just, and again, this is when people try to make this a like big picture conversation about like something fundamentally wrong with the 49ers. When you get down 17-0, the game script is a very real thing. Right. Because now all of a sudden your run game, which was already going to be largely ineffective, just doesn't matter anymore. And they can rush 4 and drop 7 and have really good players in coverage and a really good pass rush, even when they do rush 4. And they know you're going to throw it. Like your hands are tied in a way that they aren't when it's 7-0 or tied. And that's the other thing. Go ahead.
conversely, the same line of thinking, for the 49ers to win that game, they needed Sam Darnold to beat them.
Yes.
Like, if you can get the Seahawks in 3rd and long all game, and you take your chances with Sam Darnold doing the 5 and 7 step drop back game, and your bad pass rush at least has an opportunity to pin its ears back, and you can maybe get an interception or force a fumble or whatever. That's how you stay in that game. But because of the game script like you're talking about, it got to be 17-0. Seahawks don't need anything from Sam Darnold. He just needs to hand the ball off.
Yep.
And complete a pass here and there. He only had 17 attempts.
Yeah.
Completed 12 passes.
Yeah.
And so that's the other part of what you're saying. You fall down big, then the key to winning that game is forcing Sam Darnold to beat you in key spots. Yep. You basically take that out of the equation at all because Seattle's just going to run the ball the whole game with a big lead.
Yep. And that's how the snowball gets at. Like, I don't think Seattle's better than the 49ers, but I don't think they're 5 touchdowns better. And I certainly don't think they're 5 touchdowns better when the Niners have all their dudes. But the Niners didn't, and Seattle stuffed them in a locker the last few times they faced them. How did you think Brock Purdy played last night?
I didn't really have a problem with it. Like, here's the thing: like, he wasn't incredible, but at a certain point, it's like when you see Kyle Shanahan's offense humming, it's very much like in rhythm, on time. Running game is married to the passing game. Play action sets up all sorts of different stuff. You can, threaten the edges and get linebackers coming up to stop the run, and then you can throw over the top of them. You can tie all of that together with sequencing and everything like that. When you can't block the opposing defense, and they can just pressure your quarterback very quickly, only rushing 4 guys, that is the number one formula for defensive success in the NFL.
Against any quarterback.
Against any quarterback. And honestly, Brock was their best player last night on either side of the ball. And I don't think it's particularly close. I think for Brock, given the circumstances and he obviously wasn't perfect, but he was the only one on either side of the ball capable of making any plays. Like, it was like him and D Winters were like only 49ers who
shout out to D Winters. He had a good game.
who were playing at like a reasonably high level. Like, do you want more from Brock Purdy? Absolutely. But the 49ers receivers cannot do anything against that Seahawks secondary. You're obviously missing George Kittle. The offensive line just got whooped the entire game, just like it did week 18. Christian McCaffrey couldn't get going. Like, you completed 3 passes to receivers. One of them was the end around flea flicker screen to Demarcus Robinson. And then you only got 2 catches for Jawan Jennings, and even he dropped one.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, was it an A-plus game from Brock? No, but Brock was the only playmaker on the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers. And I don't come away from this game thinking like, oh, you can't win with this guy. Like, I absolutely think you can win with Brock Purdy. Like, if one of the big key bullet points this season is like Brock Purdy is better than the consensus thinks he is. He can make plays outside of the structure of the offense more than he has gotten credit for. Although I think people who watch the 49ers like understand that that's like a real thing now. He's a good decision maker for the most part. Will he throw some interceptions? Sure. But they're not, like, in the aggregate, he's largely I think Brock Purdy is a top 8-10 quarterback in the league. I really believe that, particularly, and like I don't do the thing where you're doing a draft of quarterbacks and you draft them irrespective of the system they're in and the coach they have, et cetera, et cetera. Brock Purdy is Kyle Shanahan's quarterback. So you can't divorce Kyle Shanahan from Brock Purdy when you're making the evaluation. Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan are top 5 to 10 in the league, in my opinion, that combination. So I absolutely think you can win with Brock Purdy. And I don't come away from this season thinking anything different about the quarterback situation than I thought going in.
Yeah, I thought he missed a couple of throws last night, but overall, especially the Niners' offensive line was fine early in the game. But to the point we were just talking about with game script, when you start getting down 3 touchdowns in the second half, and the defense has nothing to worry about except getting after the quarterback, it just gets a lot tougher.
433 yards last night.
Yeah, I have no major complaints about Brock. The one throw that I think he probably really wants back, aside from the interception, was he missed Juwan Jennings.
On a deep corner route.
Yeah, and that's a throw I think you probably got to have. But like I said, no major complaints on the quarterback front. You mentioned Kyle Shanahan. I don't necessarily in games like last night go, oh, the play calls, the speed option thing on 4th and short was weird. I thought the handoff to McCaffrey on 3rd and 1 was weird. I don't know why they didn't just sneak it or try and sneak it, but
you said after the game they were taking the sneak away by loading the inside, which
I see.
Sure.
I've never seen a team not sneak because of that. But anyways, my bigger thing with Kyle Shanahan is watching a player like Rashid Shaheed torch the 49ers and watching a player like Mecole Hardman torch the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan not being able to get a player like that and make him effective. That is my consistent, like every year, there's a really good team that just has some random ass dude who's just fast as fuck. And they get him the ball on end arounds and jet sweeps and screens and he just takes a top off the defense and the quarterback throws it as far as they can and that guy returns kicks and they impact games. But Jacob Cowing isn't good at breaking off routes in the middle of the field, so he can't get on the roster. Like that's the kind of thing because Demarcus Robinson and fucking Kendrick Bourne need snaps. Like, all right, man, sure. Go fine. That is one thing that I think he has to get over, this thing of like, well, when this guy's on the field, the defense is going to know. Like, who cares? If that guy's faster than everybody, sometimes it just doesn't matter. The threat of that guy being on the field, the threat of that guy going in motion sometimes is enough. So that's like I said, again, not the reason they lost last night, but when you look at how athletic Seattle looks and how unathletic the 49ers looked offensively, especially compared to Seattle's defense, I think that's something that, like, man, you've got to find a dude that can just flat out beat a defender with foot speed.
Yeah, and they've tried that in the past. They tried it with Travis Benjamin. They tried it with Danny Gray. They tried it with
Marquise Goodwin.
Ray McLeod, Marquise Goodwin, Travis Benjamin. Like they've had those guys, but no, to your point, none of those guys have been good enough. Like they do need field stretchers, and I think broadly, and Nick Wagner has been tweeting about this, they need speed. They need speed and playmaking offensively. They can only get away with schemes so much, and the 49ers for the last couple of years have been one of the worst teams in the NFL in yards after the catch, which goes completely against what we knew about them from, the 2019, 2021, 2022. Like those, the Niners were always like the yak gods, the yak bros, right? Like if you get anybody in space and get them the ball in stride, then they could, rip off a 60-yard touchdown at any point. And that was one of the things that made the 49ers offense so lethal.
Yep.
And that element has been gone the last few years.
Yep.
And some, Deebo Samuel, his relative decline is absolutely part of that. Obviously, he wasn't on the team this year, but Juwan Jennings isn't that guy. They were hoping to a certain extent that Ricky Pearsall could be that guy, although the idea with Pearsall was probably more about winning in man-to-man coverage and just being able to get open and be kind of a possession guy more so than like a yak field stretcher guy. But no, the idea that they need speed offensively is absolutely 100% true. I think they need athleticism and speed. They need playmakers. I think playmakers is kind of the most important thing when, like scheme can only get you so far, right? Like sometimes you just need to overcome coaching or overcome a play design breaking down, which is what Brock Purdy was doing all of last night, right? It's like it felt like every single play broke down and he had to go off script and scramble around and make plays, which he did a reasonably good job of, all things considered. But to your point, they need playmakers on offense. They need somebody who can stretch the field against good defenses. They need somebody who can be good with the ball in their hands. And, as good as Christian McCaffrey is, he's clearly not the same player he was earlier in his career. And that's to the fact that Christian McCaffrey had almost a 2,200-yard season and 17 touchdowns in the regular season, despite being a little bit more limited physically than he was when he first came out of Stanford, is super impressive. And next year, I don't know that you can count on Christian McCaffrey having another 2,000-yard season and being that guy again. Yep. So you need athleticism, you need burst, you need guys who can beat man coverage, you need guys who can make plays with the balls in their hands. And that, to me, probably from a roster perspective, is their most pressing need. I would say improving the defensive line and receiver. Very clearly the 49ers' most pressing needs going into the offseason.
Yeah, how they manage, and we'll dive deep into the nitty-gritty on this over the next 3 months leading up to free agency and 4.5 months leading up to the draft. But
Jeez. 4 months until the draft. God.
Well, I don't know. Is it January to February, February to March, I guess 3 months.
3 months till free agency, 4 months till the draft. It's a long time.
So, I mean, we'll pick through all this with a fine tip comb, but I kind of adapt it. You're not going to have George Kittle next year, at least for a large portion of the year. And when he comes back, what version of George Kittle are you getting? You have to really start planning for life without George Kittle. You have to really start planning for life without Kyle Juszczyk, who's 33 now, 34. You have to start figuring out what your offense looks like sans Christian McCaffrey, because while Christian McCaffrey was awesome this year from a production standpoint, you said it just watch him. Go watch. They showed. There was this video going around on the internet after the Juwan Jennings touchdown pass, where it was Juwan Jennings touchdown pass in the Super Bowl and then Juwan Jennings touchdown pass against the Eagles. Watch McCaffrey on that touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. It is a different player. There's a level of explosiveness and juice that he just doesn't have anymore. And so I think not only is this about improving the 49ers roster moving forward, but it's about fundamentally changing what your offense is. Because it can't be, this is the Christian McCaffrey show. It can't be George Kittle is going to make defenses put defenses on their heels just by being on the field, because are we going to run the ball? Are we going to throw it? You got to account for everything. There's going to be a massive, massive shift in how the 49ers have to do offense. And that's the other part of this. It's not about just, like you said it, they need more speed at receiver. They need better receivers. They just need better players at that position. But they also need to figure out, what's the new foundation of this offense? Because it's going to have to be different moving forward.
Yeah. I still think you go into next season with Christian McCaffrey as the centerpiece, and he's probably going to be a large part of your plans. But I think you just need reinforcements.
Sure.
You need plan B's and C's and D's. Your plan B can't be DeMarcus Robinson, or your plan B can't be Kendrick Bourne. Right. And Brian Robinson Jr. You just need better players and more depth all around offensively.
Shout out to Jordan James, by the way.
Yeah, Jordan James looked decent. I mean, maybe he's their backup running back next year. But can you get to me we've talked offline, and I think you've mentioned it on your radio show. Can the 49ers go big game hunting in the trade market for a receiver?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can they get somebody I don't know, Justin Jefferson? Is that as crazy of a thought sending Minnesota a first-round pick because Trent Williams is coming back. You don't necessarily need a left tackle in this draft. Would you love to draft an elite edge rusher? Sure, but you might not get an elite guy if you're picking 26th or 27th. So maybe you send that pick to Minnesota, and maybe you can get Justin Jefferson because you don't have Brandon Ayuk's contract on the books anymore, right? Like,
Sure.
I think that's sort of the conversation that needs to be had in Santa Clara is like, because if you get a player like that, then you don't need a 2,000-yard season from Christian McCaffrey. You could get 1,300 yards from Christian McCaffrey and have a 1,500-yard receiver, and then all of a sudden it's like that can cover up the absence of George Kittle a little bit, right? Like,
yeah, hey Chris, gonna need 1,000 season from you, or we're cooked.
If they didn't have Christian McCaffrey, they
holy shit,
6-7 games this year.
Oh my god, yeah, it would have been rough.
So I think you need to, like, you can't go into next season being like, yeah, we're just gonna get 2,000 yards from CMC, and we're gonna patch together this receiving core, and we're going to be right back in the playoffs. It's like, no, you need serious reinforcements at the receiver position. I think you try to trade for somebody, and I think you draft at least one on the first 2 days of the draft.
Yeah, and if Trent Williams is like thumbs up, I'm definitely playing next year. Cool, kick the left tackle can down the road another year for sure. You mentioned needing plan A's because they have a bunch of plan B's and C's. Do you know what my plan A is every single day when my feet hit the floor, Chris?
What's that?
It's to find the Lamb Chops articles of clothing hanging in my closet.
Which we are both wearing currently.
We have the Candlestick Chronicles hoodies on right now. sglambchops.com is their website. Lamb Chops is the official clothing brand of this podcast. Get your Candlestick Chronicles official merch now. If you're watching on YouTube, Chris is showing off the awesome hat from the summer line. From the 2025 summer line. The winter 2026 line is out now. It features a black starter style jacket that is just absolutely fire. There is the 2025 fall line that's still out. There's a sweater, there's t-shirts. They have, it's all high quality. It's all going to be comfortable. And like I said, while you're there, get your official Candlestick Chronicles merch. Just search Candlestick. There's a t-shirt as the weather starts to warm up. They've got a hoodie for when it cools down at night. You can just be decked out in Candlecron all day, and it's going to be high quality, it's going to be comfortable, and most importantly, you're going to look dope. So when you visit sglambchops.com, use promo code Candlestick20 to receive 20% off of your order. sglambchops.com, Lamb Chops, join the herd.
This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. It's no longer the holiday season, but it's still the best time of the year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff runs. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place to go where it feels good to be right. And that, of course, is Prize Picks. Man, I had another 6-pick flex play for Sunday's game on Prize Picks. It's been kind of a rough go recently. I think I've been a little bit over aggressive with some of these plays, but look, scared money don't win money. I went more than half of a rushing and receiving touchdown for Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, the 49ers did not get in the end zone last night, so no touchdown for Christian McCaffrey. That ended, I think, his playoff streak of touchdowns at 9 games. So Christian McCaffrey scored touchdowns in 9 straight playoff games. That streak is snapped. I had a Jackson Smith and Jigba more than half of a touchdown. He got one, obviously, in the first quarter. Jake Tonjes, demon play, I went more than half of a rushing or receiving touchdown. He obviously did not get in the end zone. Eddie Pinheiro, cash money. I had more than half a field goal made. He had 2. Jason Myers, another one. He hit 2. The play was more than 1.5 field goals made. Juwan Jennings, I missed this one. 41.5 receiving yards. He finished I think he had 23. And obviously 3 out of 6 is not going to get you paid, but still a strong season. I feel good about what we're able to accomplish this year on Prize Picks. So make sure you download the Prize Picks app today. Use code Candlestick, and you can do it in the offseason. Basketball, baseball is coming up. You can continue to play Prize Picks even if the 49ers are out. But download the app today. Use code Candlestick to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That is code Candlestick to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
I would like to say something about this season, if that's okay.
That's what we're here for.
Great. Excellent. So I tweeted about this last night and then ended up writing about it last night. Just because I think it's important. This is fun. Like, this season ruled, dude. It was Nick Bosa goes down in week 3, and it felt like, oh, well, season's over. Like, they're 3-0, and
Bosa
somehow
goes down. Fun.
Yeah. Well, no.
Yeah.
And then, do you know what else is awesome? Week 6, watching Fred. No. But Nick Bosa goes down and it was like, man, 3-0 start, but it feels, and then they get thumped by the Jags. And she's like, man, all right, here we go. Here's another 2020, 2024 type season where all we talk about is the injuries, and they go 7-10, and we're like, oh, but are they good? Like, it felt like it was heading that direction. And then Fred Warner, they get that big win in LA. The week after they lose to the Jags on Thursday Night Football, it's like, oh, maybe they'll stick around. And then Fred Warner goes down the next week. It's like, all right, definitely trending toward this 2024, 2020 type of season. And then they just kept winning. And we got to keep doing pods where it was like, wow, they won. What's their identity? Like, do they have a path to victory in these games? And, oh, they're playing for the 1 seed. And, oh, they're playing, okay, they lost it. They got to go on the road to Philly. And, oh, wow, look at that. They beat Philly and their defense is good. Like, there were so many storylines that went beyond. Like, the injury stuff clouded the entire season for sure. But this was a really, really overall fun year. And I think the intensity of like, there's expectations with this team. It's the San Francisco 49ers. Anytime they're a little bit good, there's going to be a Super Bowl expectation. This is not the Jacksonville Jaguars, who and that's not to take a shot at them. They're a new franchise that doesn't have the winning history yet. And they make the playoffs, and it's like, yeah, it's a bummer they won, but hey, we're here. We've arrived. Liam Cohen's great, and Trevor Lawrence is great. The 49ers don't get that luxury. And so I think everything is so, like, angsty and intense during the season that the fact that this season was awesome and they won 12 games and had no business winning 12 games and went to the playoffs when they had no business going to the playoffs and won a playoff game when they had no business winning a playoff game, that's awesome. And that's really, really cool. And so last night sucked. Like, that was just, like, I started writing jokes in my game post about it, where it's just like, all right, hey, end of the third quarter, good news, there's 15 minutes left. Like, oh, they're only down 12 field goals. Like, it just, like, it was ass. It was a brutal way to end it, but that doesn't change the fact that this season was way more fun than it should have been. And I think that's worth recognizing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's sort of the difference, like, between being burdened with expectations and not, and playing with house money. Like, it's fun to be the underdog, and it's easier to root for an underdog as opposed to a team that's supposed to win, which is, I think, what's been sort of the source of frustration for 49ers fans for the past, I don't know, 15 years. Has been like, the Niners lost the Super Bowl to the Ravens when I think going in they were pretty clearly the better team.
Yep.
But they just played like shit the first half of that game in New Orleans, and they nearly came back and won, but also screwed up at the end. That was super frustrating. And the same thing for 2019. I think the Niners were favored in that game going in against the Chiefs. I think they were 3-point favorites, if I remember.
Yeah, it's
like
they
lose that game. Yeah, they lose that game. They blow a 10-point lead. That's super frustrating. And then obviously 2023, you and I talked about it, or at least I felt like it was the best 49ers team I've seen basically since 1994.
Yep.
And I still feel that it was, and they blow a 10-point lead in the second half and lose that game. And it's super disappointing because you go in thinking that that's the better team. And that's a lot more difficult to reconcile a loss like that than reconciling the loss against the Seahawks, where it's like, well, the Seahawks are clearly better. The Niners overachieved. They outpunched their weight, and it was a really successful season given the circumstances. And that's easier to digest than, oh, they were the better team and they screwed it up, which I think had been had been kind of the prevailing thought when the 49ers were contending over the previous like 15 years or so. So that made the season feel a little bit different. It made the winning, I think, a little bit more fun for a lot of 49ers fans. And I think this is the type of season to where, there was a lot of discussion, including here on this podcast, like, oh, the window's closed after 2023. Well, one thing this season did, I think, is make it feel like the window could be open, even with some of these guys at the back end of their prime. Like the window could still be open for Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams and George Kittle if he's able to come back at some point next year. Like, I feel like Brock Purdy can keep the 49ers window open. Kyle Shanahan obviously can keep the 49ers window open if you can get reinforcements to the roster, if you can get more playmakers, if you can get a better pass rush and a better run defense. Like, these aren't insurmountable things. I think you can absolutely get there. And there's another thought I have another thought, but I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what the season showed. Like, Christian McCaffrey was a huge part of it, but Brock Purdy, how can Brock Purdy bounce back in 2025 was a massive storyline because he was not very good in 2024. And it was like, okay, well, what does he look like when he doesn't have all his dudes? And yeah, he still had Christian McCaffrey, but a much less effective version of Christian McCaffrey, or a much less explosive version of Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle was out for a lot of the year and dealing with injuries. Ricky Pearsall dealt with knee and ankle injuries all year. And Brock, I thought, bounced back and played really well. And when you have a quarterback that you believe in, the bar starts to lower a little bit for what the rest of your team looks like. And I had my complaints early in the year about the rookie class, but Upton Stout got dramatically better as the season wore on, particularly over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Upton Stout was really, really good. CJ West had a sack last night where he just won with a bull rush, just won a rep. And he improved throughout the season. Alfred Collins got a lot better throughout the season. And it looked early in the year like, man, if they get anything out of Alfred Collins this year, it'd be kind of a miracle. And he turned in a really, really good rookie season. Michael Williams was really good and improving before he got hurt back in, what was that, week 9?
Something like 10? That, week 9 or 10. Yeah.
When he got hurt in the middle of the season. That's how we do that. So yeah, man, like now we can have the discussion about they need stars, because I think that is what you need to compete at the highest level. Like, you need star players along the defensive line, in the second level, at receiver, whatever it is. Like, you need those all-pro quality players. But I think there's a foundation here where you look at it, you don't even have to squint that hard to go, oh yeah, there's some players here. There's a functioning team here that makes you feel good about their chances going into 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing I wanted to note, like, I've seen some people tweeting like this like, oh God, the Seahawks are going to be better than the Niners for the next decade. It's like, man, we've all been watching the NFL to know that being elite can be very fleeting, right? Like, the Eagles absolutely destroyed the Chiefs in last year's Super Bowl. And the prevailing thought was like, oh God, who's beating the Eagles over the next 5 years? It's like, well, Eagles came crashing back down to earth this year. Like, that's why winning the Super Bowl is so hard, but also why it's impossible to predict what's going to happen. Like, do I think the Seahawks are going to be great under Mike Macdonald, or at least like a really good team for a long time? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to be what they were last night in every game they play the 49ers for the next 10 years? No, that's just not how the NFL works.
Right.
So while it seems like the gap between the 49ers and Seahawks is super wide, the NFL just has a way of keeping everything kind of close.
Yeah.
And so I'm not super pessimistic about the 49ers chances at, like, I don't view the Seahawks as like this insurmountable roadblock forever, because again, being elite is fleeting, and what looks real and long-term in one moment might not necessarily be the truth next year. We have no idea what's going to happen with Sam Darnold. Like, is Sam Darnold going to just be elite? Like the Detroit Lions had a couple years. they make deep playoff runs, like, oh, this is the next power in the NFC. Look out, they're going to be that team for a long time, and then they don't make the playoffs this year.
Yep.
So teams rise and fall all the time. And while the Seahawks look like, I think, a very clear favorite to win the Super Bowl this year, I don't come out of last night being like, oh, that's going to be an insurmountable team forever, and Kyle Shanahan should just retire because Mike McDonald has his number. I think that's a little silly. And there were a lot of silly things being said on the internet last night and today, but I just wanted to make that point. Like, we see the NFL teams go from elite to mediocre very quickly, including the Niners, who went to the Super Bowl and then didn't make the playoffs the next year, the last time that happened, like both times, right? So
the Legion of Boom Seahawks went 11-5 in 2012. They lost in the divisional round against Atlanta. I think Atlanta beat them. The next year they won the Super Bowl. The following year they lost the Super Bowl. And then they didn't make another conference championship game. Like, being really, really awesome in the NFL for an extended period of time is really tough. And they've had the Niners number in pretty much from 2014 until like 2021, or maybe 2019. But for like a 5-year stretch there, they had the Niners number. But also during that 5-year stretch, the 49ers were pretty dreadful. 2015, 16, 17, like 18, they weren't beating anybody, much less Seattle. So, yeah, man, it definitely is one of those things. Like, Seattle is good enough that I think if you're the Niners, you're looking at, all right, what do we have to do to win against our secondary? What do we have to do to hold up against our defensive line? But those are all problems that you're going to have against like any good team. Yeah. There's not a lot of good teams that you're like, yeah, we can get away with DeMarcus Robinson and Kendrick Bourne starting at receiver. So I'm with you. Seattle's very, very good. They've shown it throughout the year. They showed it again on Saturday night. But their defense is great. Offensively, they're fine. I think in a normal game script, I think their offense is probably gettable. So, no, I'm right there with you. In the scope of this year, Seattle is in the scope of this year, and with the 49ers injuries, they're the dramatically better team, and I think it bared itself out on the field over the last couple of games they played. But I mean, you go back to week 1, the Niners beat Seattle in Seattle when the Niners had all their dudes. So, and even George Kittle got hurt in that game. So, yeah, there's a gap. It's not some insurmountable chasm or rift, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason for sure. The first thing I'm looking at is, what happens with Robert Saleh, even members of the front office. I'm not a betting person, but if I were, I would say at least one member of the front office is going to get a GM job somewhere. And I would bet that Robert Saleh is going to get a head coaching job somewhere. So and the 49ers have compensated for brain drain since Kyle Shanahan got there. Like, it's nothing new, but there are people in the building who have been very helpful who might be leaving. So that'll be an interesting thing. It's more difficult for us to talk about because we don't know exactly what decisions are made by what people all the time. But like, there are people who've been there a long time who have helped them build this roster and identify players who are going to be moving on. And there's also Robert Saleh, who coached his ass off this year and took basically a preseason week 3 roster to like a passable playoff defense. And that guy's going to be gone. So is it, more likely than not, Robert Saleh feels like he's going to be gone. Is that going to be Gus Bradley? Or is, who's defensive coordinator? Are you going to get Jim Schwartz? I don't know. That's a big question for me.
Whatever it is, I'm hoping the 49ers have a better plan than the one they had after they fired Steve Wilkes. Like,
yeah,
I would assume
thing wasn't great.
Yeah, because that wasn't because, okay, Robert Saleh gets his head coaching job and they knew, all right, D'Amico Ryans is it. Whenever Robert Saleh steps out the door, D'Amico Ryans is stepping into that job. No questions asked. Well, questions asked, like they were going to interview and stuff, but like he was getting that job. D'Amico Ryans walked out the door and they I don't think had a great plan, but they went, okay, they identified Steve Wilks. I'd been a head coach before, had some success as defensive coordinator. Let's go get Steve Wilks. And that didn't go great. And so they fired Steve Wilks, and then I don't think had a real plan. And they wound up with Nick Sorensen. Like it wasn't like, all right, we're going to fire Steve Wilks because Nick Sorensen's ready.
Was that the Vic Fangio thing?
I think so. I think there was Vic Fangio.
Fangio went to Miami. I think the 49ers went to the Super Bowl that year with Steve Wilks. Fangio was hired by Miami in the championship round. So the 49ers didn't have a chance, but I think Kyle Shanahan really wanted Fangio.
Yeah.
And then they didn't get, but they still fired Wilks.
He kind of said as much.
Yeah. They still fired Wilks. And then, so anyway, started.
Yeah. No. So they had to know, like they had to know when they hired Robert Saleh that this might be another one and done thing. And they're going to have a fifth different defensive coordinator in 5 years. I would hope that they've identified somebody who isn't going to get hired elsewhere, who they go, all right, this guy's definitely stepping in. Whether it's somebody on the staff, whether it's an assistant with another team, I don't know. Whether it is, like you just said, Jim Schwartz looking for a job, but I would hope there's some contingency plan that goes beyond winding up making your special teams coordinator the defensive coordinator the next year.
I think the two names, and this is just me speculating, I have not talked to anybody about this. The two names would be Jim Schwartz and Gus Bradley. And Gus Bradley's obviously already on the staff.
Right.
He was, running team meetings and giving motivational speeches and telling stories and, on Saturday nights before games during the second half of the season. Obviously familiar with the Pete Carroll defense that everybody talks about. But I think with the Pete Carroll defense, and Robert Saleh did a really good job of this, is you have to adapt. They're not running the 2012 Legion of Boom.
That's it. Yeah.
Cover 3 defense. There's a lot of variation happening to that. And Robert Saleh was really good at helping innovate that scheme. So is Gus Bradley part of that conversation? I think he probably has to be. And he's an in-house candidate, so ideally you already know. And he's like working with the defense. It's not like, Sorensen was like a special teams coach and then.
Well, he's I think he was safeties and nickels something like that.
He had coached special teams previously.
Yeah. And now he's special teams with the Cowboys, or he was.
I would say Jim Schwartz would make a ton of sense too.
I agree.
I assume he's out of a job after being the Browns defensive coordinator for a long time. Browns always had a really good defense.
Yep.
And it
really
always
well coached.
And it was always really tough on Kyle Shanahan offenses. And obviously you have a ton of different variations of Kyle Shanahan's scheme throughout the league. So I think Jim Schwartz would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would work with the Niners, what they do from a defensive front perspective, obviously with the wide 9 and stuff. Jim Schwartz is like an integral figure in that whole scheme. So, Chris Kasura could certainly work with Jim Schwartz, no problem. So that's maybe Daniel Bullock's, I don't know, safety secondaries coach, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. But Gus Bradley and Jim Schwartz, I think, would be the first two names if and when Robert Saleh leaves.
I would agree. I think that's all I've got for now. A lot of questions going forward here.
I think we gotta do some pods where we like draft off-season needs. I think we've done that in the past.
Dude, we love a draft. Can we do a draft of drafts? Can we draft 49ers draft classes?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, we'll get mock drafts in here.
Yeah, we'll do some mock drafts.
We'll start
diving into some college tape.
Get some free agency going.
I could start, building the case for Caleb Downs at the back end of the first round if you don't trade that pick.
Brother, from what I understand, Caleb Downs is gone in the top 10. That's the early buzz in the lobby.
Maybe.
the take is here's
safety taking that high.
Kyle Hamilton?
When did he go?
12? 14?
Okay.
I might be wrong.
Nicky Manwari was late 20s, wasn't he? 14. Kyle Hamilton's 14th overall in 22.
So I think it's going to be a lot of this. Caleb Downs is going to go like 11th or 12th. And then you're going to get Mel Kiper being like, they just got the best football player in this draft. And he's going to talk about how just pound for pound, Caleb Downs is the best football player in the draft.
I would agree. For those who don't know, Caleb Downs is a safety for Ohio State, who's been like the best defensive player in the country since he started playing as a freshman.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable. You watch an Ohio State game and there's like 3 or 4 plays a game where it's just like, holy shit, who was that? Oh, it's Caleb Downs.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who like he can play deep safety but also be in the box. Anyway, doesn't matter. We don't need to dive into the Caleb Downs thing.
No, let's go. Let's get into it right now. What does he do? I did think
Earl player.
I did think
flag guy.
Now, hang on. Now, I will say on Caleb Downs, if they hire Jim Schwartz, I'm in. If they hire Gus Bradley, I don't think he fits that scheme. I don't think he fits that scheme even a little bit.
Okay. Sure.
But no, that's going to be my new thing. I think all year, anytime there's a connection between a player and the 49ers, I'm going to be like, is he a scheme fit though? Right. I think at some point, like, just get good players. That's our draft. That's the official draft mantra of this podcast. Draft good players. No,
or trade for stars.
It was about. I did think along the lines of young players playing and getting better. I do think the 49ers made a mistake by benching Marquise Siegel this year because he had to start last night and was just not. This is not a knock on him. You get better by playing, and he didn't get to play enough. And so on the first touchdown, I think Tom Brady was really good again last night. He pointed out how Marquise Siegel just kind of got lost in no man's land. He started to like take off after Sam Darnold, but then stopped and then didn't get back to the corner to cover. He's just guarding grass.
And he kind of ran through. Who was it? Was it JSN?
No, it's Rashid Shaheed.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, to set up the touchdown before the half. Just plowed him over. You can't do that. Like that's it. But that's an experience thing. That's a player of knowing timing and I don't think that'll be a mistake he makes moving forward, but it's like, dude, that would have been a much more helpful mistake to have in week 12, you know? And then there was I think it was the Kenneth Walker touchdown that made it 24-6. Marquise Siegel just got put in a blender and then was late and then missed a tackle. It just, as you watch all the young players who improved pretty dramatically over this year, the one young player that they opted not to play looked the least ready in the biggest spot. And I think that was telling.
Yeah.
That was just I meant to get that take off.
No, I think you're right. I was really high on Siegel and the way he played in the beginning of the season, despite what the coverage numbers were. Particularly given that I didn't find Jair Brown to be like this guy you had to play, who was like so clearly better than Marquise Siegel. I think they're very different players, but I think the upside of Siegel, with his speed and his tackling and his versatility, just make him more valuable in the long run than Jair Brown, who's felt like kind of a liability in deep coverage and maybe someone who was okay as like a big nickel or, you know, a safety in the box playing kind of like a de facto linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred Siegel to get that playing time. I also didn't think Malik Mustafa had a great season.
No.
And he missed basically the entire offseason with the knee thing. So I'm not like out on him as a player. So ideally for him, he can have a healthy offseason. He needs to develop if he's going to play. Like, he needs to be better if he's going to be a starting safety. And I think he would probably tell you that.
Yeah, but like you see the talent on just him getting downhill and being a tremendous form tackler. But even on the
sack he had on Sam Darnold was
insane. Yeah. Like that's a run blitz where he just runs through the running back and caught up to Sam Darnold. Like that was a really great play. So you see the talent, but yeah, I'm with you. He has to just become a better football player.
Yeah. Well, and we'll talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the team, but
totally.
Yeah, I think broadly, good season. You feel good about the 49ers because their coach and quarterback situation, most importantly.
Yep.
And then, like every other team in the league, they gotta improve the roster and get better if they want to continue. But I think this season overall is really encouraging, in that it feels like the window is still open for them to compete for Super Bowls. and it's not as shut as it felt after 2023 and 2024. I think 25, the arrow is pointing back up for the 49ers, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Good season.
Good season. Thank you. I know the scheduling this year has been a little bit crazy. You and I are super busy.
Yeah.
It's about to get a whole lot busier in this household. And
why did something happen?
We'll deal with that as it comes. Yeah, expecting an addition to the family at the end of March. So really, really excited about that. But the scheduling is going to continue to be kind of an issue, but we'll work through it. We appreciate everybody. It feels like everybody who listens to our pod is just like a longtime listener, which is really cool. And shout out to the new listeners too.
Yeah, but also getting new listeners is kind of like the whole thing. So if you like this podcast, tell your friends. Send it to a group chat, or if you're part of like a social media community online, if you can fire off the pod. This is episode, I'm checking the stats right now. This is episode 786 for us.
Wow.
Which is kind of nuts. So we're going to hit 800 over the off season.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Great. That's really cool. Shout out to you. Appreciate you for another season.
Same dog.
And yeah, we will keep it going. Going to be some other, just like, there will be some changes with the pod. Nothing that really impacts the listeners all that much. It might enhance the listener experience a little bit. We'll see.
Hope so.
But there will be some changes coming. And I think, anyway, I don't want to get too far down that hole on the pod. But we appreciate everybody. Shout out to another great season. We will continue watching the playoffs, and we will be locked into some college tape, finding prospects that we like. We'll be diving into free agency trade targets for the 49ers, obviously the coaching stuff. There will be plenty to discuss. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Shout out to Cooperage Brewing. Go get your Candlestick Chronicles Hazy IPA for sure. And just stop by both of their spots in Santa Rosa. And shout out to Lamb Chops, Craig, Jordan. We appreciate you guys ever so much.
Shout out Craig and Jordan.
Shout out to Prize Picks. And we'll talk to you guys very, very soon.
Shout out our Roker.